Joining us now, Kamel Hawwash, chair of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, which campaigns for an end to the Israeli occupation of Palestine. We thank you so much for joining with your perspective this morning. I want to start off simply with the possible solutions. I mean, Yousef just did a great job talking about the geopolitical conflict, the massive international players here. What about internally? How do internally the members of Palestine find a solution?
Well, I think looking to the future, I wanted to find a solution is the right way to look at this. The problem is it's been 75 years since Israel was created. From whence it should have been the case that Israel withdrew from the occupied Palestinian territories and allowed the Palestinians to set up their own state and to live in peace. But Israel has chosen, its leaders have, and particularly this government that we have in Israel has chosen not to recognize the rights of the Palestinian people. On the contrary, you will have heard Bezalel Smotrich, one of the ministers, finance minister, say the Palestinians have three options: either they leave, or they live here without any rights, or if they resist the occupation, then they will be killed. Now that is no prelude to peace, is it? You also have.
All right, so Kamel, let's work with that. It's Yousef here alongside Kriti. Kamel, just run me through what you're hearing from your sources on the ground in terms of the dialogue between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas, because if we can get a breakthrough there, it will sure help a lot when all the stakeholders sit down together during this painful period.
Well, I mean, you and your viewers will be aware that there's been, unfortunately, a division between Palestinians for nearly 17 years. That doesn't help. There have been a number of attempts to break through that, but that hasn't resulted in unity. So unity is really important. We know, I think it's clear that Hamas rules in Gaza and the Palestinian Authority, or if you like, Fatah rules in the West Bank, and the Palestinian Authority would have had no involvement in what started on the 7th of this month. But also listening to what Riyad Mansour in the United Nations, the ambassador for Palestine in the United Nations, he is reminding everyone that the problem lies in the international communities and Israel's lack of real seriousness to deliver the rights for the Palestinian people. And then on the Israeli side, I would remind you, if I may just finish this point, that in 2018, Israel passed a law, the nation-state law, which gave even its Palestinian citizens no rights by saying only Jewish Israelis have the right to self-determination in Israel, whose borders are not defined.
Right. Well, Kamel, let's talk a little bit about time frame here. I think our financial audience will want to know, from your expertise, how long do you think this lasts? I've heard timelines going as short as a couple more days to months, even years. What do you think?
Yeah, it's very difficult to judge, I have to say, because we hear of escalations, particularly the United States, sending a barge, supplying Israel with all the weapons it wants, a commitment to that, a lack of even mentioning the word Palestine or Palestinians by leaders, including here in the United Kingdom, where the Foreign Secretary has completely, in his statements, has not included the word Palestinians. They do make up half the population that lives between the River Jordan and the Mediterranean Sea, and it is that is reducing the chances for peace. I think clearly on the Israeli side, they want to lash out, hit back, and if I remind the audience that unfortunately in the past the ratio, and I don't like using this, but the ratio of Palestinians killed to Israelis has always been around 10-1. So we really fear that.
Yeah, I mean those are your numbers, and we'll look into that, Kamel. But I want to shift to the road ahead and specifically focus on who can. Just in terms of
the number of casualties we're going to see, which will not
100%, and that takes me to my next point, Kamel, which is who can bring influence to the table here? Is it the Saudis? Is it the Qataris? Or is there a need for a rapprochement with Iran to move the needle in this? Because every life is a life too many.
I think it tends to fall in the laps of the Egyptians first, because they can speak to both sides to try and calm the situation down. The Saudis are in an interesting position because, as was reported earlier, they've been the Crown Prince there said that normalization with Israel was nearing, so they could be in a position to say, if unless this is brought to an end quickly, then clearly that particular deal would be delayed for months. So I think it depends on what the real aims of the Israelis are now. If they want to go to the extent that they always refer to, of basically ending the power of Hamas in this densely populated region, the most densely populated region in the world, and that will take, I think, troops on the ground. And if they even thought about doing that, that would result in many, many casualties. And we've already seen Palestinians move to UNRWA schools to try and avoid being in the crossfire.
I want to leverage your expertise, Kamel, in terms of what is going on the ground in Gaza, in terms of the basic supply of food, water, and energy. Where is that coming from, if at all, given all the restrictions?
Well, I mean, part of the reason that we're hearing from Palestinians who are, if you like, looking at this operation saying, we've had enough, is the fact that Israel determines exactly what comes in. My understanding from people on the ground is that the electricity supply has now been shut down by Israel. Gaza, in any case, was predicted to be uninhabitable by the United Nations in 2020, and here we are in 2023. Any goods going in, food supplies, etc., are heavily controlled by Israel. So the situation on the ground will worsen very, very quickly. The economic situation is always in difficulty. So it's only going to get worse. And that is why it is important to focus on the human beings in Gaza, and indeed on the other side, to try and bring this to an end. Because I personally don't want to see anyone die in this war from either side, because the families are the ones who will have to pick up the pieces once we have calm. But also, we don't want to be here speaking in 2 years' time when there's another assault on the people of Gaza.
I mean, it's certainly a tragedy that nobody wants to see continue. Kamel Hawwash, I'm sorry, we are pretty out of time. He's the chair of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. We thank him for joining the program, as well as, of course, the anchor of Daybreak Middle East and Africa, Yousef Gamal.